Yo, what's up guys? After the siege on the alt, let's also do a siege recording on the main, because some people did say, for me personally, I say like, I use the same teams all the time kind of style, but there's still a lot of people saying it's like, nah, it doesn't matter, I just want to see the siege anyway. So that was the Lushen set. Wait, let me actually pause that for a second on that Lushen set. I thought that this was my strongest Lushen set I have. Actually, I have a little bit of an upgrade on it, and actually it's a pretty substantial upgrade. But you'll see that later in the evening, because these were my first few Lushen hits, and I did a few more Lushen hits later. I mean siege hits. I did the first few siege hits, and then a few siege hits later. And the Mirane and the Dova, they're just fast. Nothing special about that. On the Dova, it's recommended to go for speed increasing effect. And on the Mirane for artifacts, you do want to go for additional damage by speed. Just adds in a little bit more damage. So then you go in, and this is the start of the siege at 12 right away. Skill 3, into the skill 2 boost, into the Lushen, and with that Lushen, how much damage are we dealing? Good old 25k per card. The others have a little bit of damage reduction, it seems, but 75k, that's a lot of damage. That's very few things that would survive that, even with a lot of minus. After you hit your first target, you can right away go to the next target and then be like, yep. And it's actually nice that you have those favorited units right now. I mainly just put like Lushens, Miranes, Jins, Dovas, and Miangs in there. Those are the only duplicates that I really care about, that I would have to see more often. Also Feng Yangs and Tianas and that kind of stuff. So actually a few. But yeah, then you start locking over the runes. Very easy like that. And then you can go into your next hit, which, once again, we try to outspeed. We do actually outspeed. If they outspeed me, they go for the speed buff, and I would take a turn. It might be that you don't really kill, but in this case, 22k, probably some minus stuff over there. Definitely a kill. But then there is an issue. I'm out of Miranes. And yeah, what if you're out of Miranes? Well, you just go for another Dova. You pick in a Jin in this case, which is technically actually a faster setup than it is with the other one. So yeah, you just go for a Jin, and then you lock in another Lushen. Make sure that your Jin is also on a proper decent set, because that's very important for the cleanup. So in my case, I do have a triple fight on him that's close to max crit rate. I think the crit rate 4 is definitely the rune that's really holding me back. And then it's still, I think it's like 168 speed. Yep, 168 speed extra. Not full on crit rate, but definitely a decent set where you can still outspeed the enemy if they're going full tank. And then the Jin can go for a cleanup. Because in the end, this will do a little bit less damage. But let's actually see how much less damage that is. Because in this case, I have more fight sets. So how much damage is this? Yeah, then we're looking at like 19ks, 20ks. That kind of makes sense on the 25% damage multiplier on the Mirane. But then again, still enough damage to kill a bunch of stuff. Then the next hit we bring into is going to be this one. That's my Chung Pong. The Maximilian I didn't showcase in this case. It's on defense, so that's a little bit less of a showcase thingy right there. But 230 speed on that Tiana. Definitely most likely enough to outspeed these things. I would recommend to go for full speed Tiana, because Irenes in a lot of cases are probably going to be on Swift as well. And then Chung Pong, you just want to have max accuracy, good amount of damage on the Chung Pong as well. Chung Pong is a damage dealer. You got to keep that in mind. Yeah, damage dealer. 15k per hit, that's a lot of damage. So then a few more hits. In this case, also one of those hits I always tend to do. I actually made a big mistake over there by hitting the one on the right, because your Siana does get 25% attack bar for every debuff that is on the enemy. You then hit an enemy that has 3 debuffs, 75, not recommended. But in the end, still a good clear. Then a clear with a Feng Yang, a Leo, and also a Tetra. In this case, Tetra was better because they were using a Neftis on this team. And I was pretty sure, like, if you go in with Alaya, you can have the heal block there for too long, and you have the silences and that kind of stuff. But I was pretty sure that if I were to do it like this, it's totally fine. Also, there's a good amount of shield sets where I'm not really sure if that is a multiple shield set kind of scenario because of no will runes or something like that. Not really sure on that scenario, but in the end, the team doesn't really do too much. Like, sure, you get that hit in, but you shake it off by the Tetra pretty fast anyway. So, sure, the Tetra can also pack a punch. Attack buff, armor break, 13k damage. It's not that much damage. Like, that's the thing. Like, the Zenitsu is really hard hit by a Leo. Sure, the Zenitsu skill 4 doesn't really care about it, but the Zenitsu is skill 1 and the skill 2. Attack buff and speed buff and armor break, and you're dealing 13k damage on a defense break. That's not that much. Then a good old Ian hit, one of those things. The moment I outspeed, this is always an easy to go. Plus, ignoring the passive. It's so nice. It's so nice. Then again, you can actually replace this one for a bunch of other units. I've seen people do it with like the Light Series, with the Wind, or not the Wind Series, the Water Series, even Sonya's. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Sonya one because then you also need to have the attack threshold. It's not that recommended. I've seen people do the same thing with just a Carbine. Or no, Covenant. The water one. Covenant, not Carbine. So yeah, any ignore defense, you can even do this with like a Kali or something like that. Like anything that ignore defense, you can kind of go for it. There's definitely a lot of options out there, but in the end, absolute best in slot is going to be Ian. But also if you, let's say you have a Destiny, or let's say you have an Oberon, or any of those kind of things, it's definitely things that you could think about placing in this slot over here. You just have to make sure that you kill on the first hit without an attack buff. That is the main thing. As long as you do that, you're golden. And Ian is actually the worst one for that because his stats are just really bad for a no attack buff hit. Then also pretty similar hits. It's relatively easy to outspeed. I don't think that this one has any speed threat in it altogether. And even if you were to silence, let's say, the Amber doesn't really care that much about it. So just a good old Amber cleanup, dot team cleanup. This is one of those hits that I think I use about every siege right now. There's a lot of Terranese teams and those kind of things. Like in general, I would say don't use this into any cleanser, and don't use this into a speed lead. I am using this right now into a speed lead, but the whole team on the enemy side just pretty much was begging for us, like, yo, we're slow, just hit us with something outspeed. So in this case, we did it. Also, the Amber is a really good counter against the Geldnir because of the heal block that is pretty much provided by every single hit that is out there for her. Very easy cleanups. Then another Lushen hit, and this is actually the upgraded version I was talking about earlier. It's 5 extra crit damage. It has nearly the same attack. It's like minus 11 attack. But there's still a slot 1 which I can add extra flat attack into. So that's a really good upgrade. And then we, of course, hitting pretty much the same thing. So this is Lushen number 4, number 5, something along those lines. Easy clear, but yeah, that's just the thing. At some point, you're just Lushening so much. It's either Adriana Sonya's or Lushen's or some kind of Tiana cleave for me. And then the random Feng Yang and the random Camilla out there. These are pretty much all the variants that I have on the menu. That is pretty much all of the hits that I do that way. At that point, I was out of all of my Dovas because I currently have 4 Dovas. And I have been doing it before with a Tion. But rather than going for a Tion, which is actually very slow, and a Jin, which is a 95, you can also go for the Nezuko. And the Nezuko has a lot higher base. So I was like, okay, with that in mind, I can probably do a bit more speedy hits. You can also use the Orochi. Also, you do have a higher lead than they have because you're working with a 30 lead. They have a 28 lead. Sure, they have like a 115 base. And you have a 103 base, but that's definitely still better than a 95 base. So I was like, I'm probably fine, good to go. So let's see how that works out for the final hit of today. Also, Lushen number 5. He does actually outspeed me. I take the next turn after this. I was like, okay, that's not great. If I had a Mirror Day right now, I'd probably kill in 2 cards. With this, I probably have to hit 3 to kill. How much do we land for crits? So we actually land double crit left, 1 crit middle, and 3 non-crits right side. Right side is the most important to double crit, at least. But maybe even 1 crit would have been fine, but we have 0 out of 3 on that one. So, yeah, and therefore we don't kill. She goes for a stun, which is not really great. Into the wild shot, additional turn. Yep, that is GG. So, yeah, it is important that you outspeed. Then again, I would say missing 3 on her. I'm pretty sure if I just landed 1 crit, she would have been nearly dead already by the looks of this HP. Because the non-crit was a 5k and a crit was a 20k. So a crit of a 20k would have probably, like if this is 15k HP, then the other part would have easily died with just 1 crit. But then again, did not get that RNG on my end. However, that is all for my siege show. We had 5 Lushens hit in there, 2 Tiana hits in there, 1 Feng Yang hit in there. Like I was saying, most of my siege hits are kind of simply just based on, we just do a whole bunch of cleaves because that is the main thing, how you get more successes in siege. Like, sure, you can go for all kinds of bruiser routes. They're definitely strong here and there, especially if you have like the perfect setup for your bruiser. But then again, bruiser is bound to get RNG'd. Outspeeding, insta-killing something, and then fighting like a 2 against 3. That is definitely a recommended way how you get relatively easy wins. So that is for me for Siege. Once again, let me know in the comments if you want me to make more Siege videos, because it's just going to be a bunch more Lushens, a bunch more Adrianas, a bunch more Tianas, and a bunch more... well, actually, the Amber team is also always used. Those are definitely the recommended teams that I have that I will always use. Let me actually know in the comments, what is your to-go hits in Siege offense that you always use, that pretty much always wins? For me, actually, the Jin Dova Lushen has never lost until this one right now, which I've been using for a season and a half already. And this is the first time where I got outsped and I also got hella clapped, and where the crits just completely did not connect, which can happen from time to time. In a Siege tournament, probably would not really use this against Vigors and against Ashes, but during the season itself, every time it's just, oh, net 4, Lushen. Well, that's enough yapping. Pretty short one for today. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. I see you as always in the next one. Maybe if I'll do Siege next time, I should do 2 Siege in one go or something. Because then we actually have a decent lengthy video. And now it's just trying to get to is like, not that much content, because just Lushen, 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 and everything that. Well, either out, guys. Thanks for watching. See you later.
Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.